street. We call it the thing above the
And your.
Oh, your.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She. No, that was all her.
This says.
O'clock.
I think it's still recording.
O'clock.
Yeah.
Here.
Like
Your
6 o'clock is
versus
technically a contraction.
Is it 6 o'clock?
I
your.
don't know.
No, it's
No.
5:30.
5:30. Halfway done.
I said, this is just random. Isn't a clock a contraction?
I guess, but I don't know what it.
Of
Stands-
the clock. That's what it means. I
For
remember.
real?
Yeah, I remember doing this in like 3rd grade, I think.
Two of the
It
clock?
just came to me after I asked that question. I
Oh.
was,
Never heard of that. Okay. So let's talk about possession. What does possession mean?
You're possessed of something?
No.
you
You own
own
something.
something.
You possess it. All right. So when we talk about possession, I have to give myself a little more room.
I know.
I didn't do that very well.
You had to do contraction first when the possession
that
was
was
on top.
Possession. I want to really just talk about singular versus plural. You are not allowed S apostrophe S. So,
No, but you could do S apostrophe.
yes. So I'm going to talk about a cat's bed. I'm going to say the cat's bed is in the living room. There's the cat's bed. How many cats do I own if I write that?
One.
Just one. Because the word is singular and then apostrophe S. Plural is this. So it's plural, then the apostrophe goes. But we don't write S apostrophe S. So we leave it like this. Okay, I forget every time. What's someone's name that ends, this is a lot of S's, Jess's car? That's what Jess's car sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Jess is one person, we're not writing S apostrophe S. Okay? So when it's plural, we put it here. We put the S before it because you just write the word first. Okay. The reason I put these two things next to each other is the other important word to talk about that falls into both of these categories is its versus its.
Isn't that like it is?
So this
Yeah.
is the contraction. This is the possession. And we're going to try and never use the word its as a pronoun anyway.
Yeah, I know.
So you should be more specific regardless, and it won't matter as far as possession goes. When we talk about this test, we want to be as specific as possible. So we're not really going to be in a situation where we just write the word its anyway. It's car. Okay? So when you see an apostrophe S, it's broken down into the two separate words.
I just did that totally
It is, it is. So it's just important to point out with apostrophes, we don't use them for plural stuff. Don't get confused. That's really how they'll test you more than anything. They'll throw an apostrophe in when they just want something plural. And it doesn't work. People do it all the time. I just found a note from my mom. And my mom wrote an apostrophe in the word loves. It's just, people think all the time that they go in when it's plural. Possession and contraction only.
This is what we have autocorrect for.
And that's why you have the SAT, to make sure you're not just relying on autocorrect. Actually, my text, I don't text you often, but it is always a jumbled mess because I just assume it'll fix it and it never does. So there's like random punctuation everywhere. In one of the messages I sent, I forgot what the word was, but it put in an apostrophe, and I was like,
Good job.
yeah,
Teaching us well.
Exactly. So I'm waiting for someone to be like, actually, that was wrong. Don't you know better? Okay, so let's look at these problems in here. Page 155. Number 7, when you go to your answer choices, you see apostrophes. We're not doing a vertical line test. We're not worrying about commas. We're looking at the apostrophes. So this time it's saying schools require. That is not possession, so it is not 7. I'm sorry, it's not A or B. It's just schools require really high scores. Just plural. Anytime things are plural, there are no apostrophes. So the correct answer is D. Okay, you try number 8.
Oh,
Page 156.
yeah, I skipped the page.
So when you have a problem with multiple types of punctuation or multiple problems, start wherever you want.
COVID.
As long as you
Spread
don't
out through
take one.
surfaces.
Yes. And no one has touched them in 24 hours. Okay, start with whatever one you want. It should be it is. It is tough, so it needs to either be A or D. And then you need to pick the right form of the word your, and that would be D. Okay, correct answer there is D. Okay. The next one doesn't have punctuation in it, but it still counts as punctuation because it's using like the right tense, using the right form of a word. So just be careful with these. I don't really know why they put it in the punctuation section, because we would also call this a word problem because words are changing. So in this one, we see the word those versus these versus they are. So consider attending a college fair and then blank, where you can find out about more schools that could be good fits. If you can get rid of it, get rid of it. They always want things short. Okay, they, these, those, they mean nothing to this sentence. So the correct answer is D. Okay, so what's going to happen now is I'm going to set the timer for 7 minutes. You are going to do the 11 questions that follow in the writing and language drill. No. So I'm going to give you about 7 minutes. If you need a little more time, you can have it. These are all on the rules we just went over only, nothing else. All right, 11 problems.
So we shouldn't fail.
You shouldn't fail, and we'll go over them after. I'm going to stop this. Okay. Number 1 is B, 2D, 3C. 4A, we'll go over any wrong ones after. 4A, 5B, 6A, 7C, 8C, 9D, 10B, 11D.
I guessed that one, but then I thought I was wrong, so I scrambled it.
All right, starting at the beginnings, which ones do we need to go over?
I think that 2 and 3, right?
Okay, 2, 3.
3.
Okay, 2.
Okay, next, 2 and everyone's good on number 1? Okay, number 2 is today's world. Okay, Today is owning the world. It's in possession of the world. So your choices were today's world.
Did you record it? Okay.
Yes, I did. Thank you. We needed to choose either A or D. D has the wrong form of the word there. It's possessive of
Yeah, that's
their
what I like.
world. Number 3, sandwich. We look at our answer choices. We see commas or no commas. We look for 2 commas. As soon as you see them, put your finger over whatever in between them. And so it's option choice C, and then I read it without it. Sure, a machine is obviously better at welding huge pieces of steel together. Still works.
So the comma will go after at though.
Yes, it has to be C because it sandwiches it. So technically, it's kind of like removing both commas and the word in between
Okay.
and making sure it works without it. That's what I mean. When you can see it that close, you can see that's a sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
The commas are your bread. Pull everything out.
What was 2?
D.
Why?
Because it's today's world, which is possessive.
And then there at the end is like meaning someone.
The possessive form of the word there as well. Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7. What of those ones?
4 and 7.
Okay,
I got them all right.
I got 4 and 6 wrong.
are we good on 5? That was a list. All right, in 4, yeah, this one people miss quite a bit. So we look at our answer choices, and what's changing is the punctuation after that parenthesis. But I see some commas and I see semicolons, so I know I need to do the vertical line test. So I do the vertical line test. I'm going to read the first half. These questions may seem overly pessimistic or overly optimistic, depending on your point of view. That is a complete sentence. Second half, however, some recent studies have been truly remarkable. Also a complete sentence. It's stop punctuation. So I choose, it's showing me commas or semicolons. Remember, I cannot have a comma unless it has a fanboy. And remember I said to you, the SAT really likes to pretend like however is a fanboy. But there's no H in fanboy.
I know, I noticed it, however.
They love however. It doesn't actually fit. But then, so you want the semicolon, but you have to be careful because A and D each use a different form of the word your.
C and D. Oh, A and yeah. Never mind.
A and D, and you want A. Okay, you said you guys were good on 5. That's the list with the Oxford comma. Number 6. Again, punctuation changing. We draw the vertical line. So we draw it after the word person, and then it said, many patients found it easier to talk to Ellie than to a real person. Complete sentence. She didn't react in some of those seemingly judgmental ways that a person would, and her voice, and you could stop there,
Yeah.
and it's a complete sentence again. It's still stop punctuation. Okay, be careful. You might be inclined to choose C because it's a semicolon, but what else is in C?
But.
But they put a new word in. Don't let them add words. Keep it the same. And so A had a colon, and colons are allowed. They're different, but they're definitely allowed. And then number 7, same thing, more vertical line test. So her voice never broke. That's a complete sentence. On top of that, blank, she could help psychologists. So if you actually look at this, the other error is not what's happening between broke and on. That's why I'm getting myself so confused. It's actually the pauses that are happening after that. So they threw in like random commas in D. Who missed that one? Which choice did you pick?
Who got number 7 wrong?
Oh, that was me.
What
I
did you
chose B.
B? That would have been a sandwich.
That's what I did. That's what I thought.
And so when you took that out, then the sentence doesn't go because it would be her voice never broke. Her voice never broke. She could help psychologists. So see how it becomes a run-on without it in there. So that would be an example of a sandwich that didn't work. Okay, last 4. Which of these?
9.
8.
Okay. 8, 9, do we need any 10 or 11?
11. I got
Okay.
11.
8 is another possession. And it says not only about psychologists' methods, and psychologists are plural, so you need the S, then the apostrophe, and then methods is also plural but not possessive. So it has to be C on that one. You told me 9, right? Here's a sandwich. We look at 10. It's all different things with commas. Right away, as soon as you know commas, look for 2. The only one that has 2 commas in it is choice D. So you put your finger over that, read it without it, and it says, in some of the more basic tasks, humans have a huge upper hand. Works great. The sandwich is doing its job. The correct answer is D.
I didn't know because like, in some of the more basic tasks, humans have an upper hand. Like have an upper hand in what? That's what like you're missing.
But that didn't change that.
Oh.
I totally see what you're saying. And if they were asking about that, you would add more.
Mm-hmm.
If you analyze every one of the SAT sentences, they don't have all the information. But when they ask you about it, make sure the information is there. So, taking out that part doesn't change that they don't know what they have the upper hand on. You guys said you were good on 10. Number 11, vertical line test. While the battle of man against machine rages on, not a complete sentence. So it has to be go punctuation. No comma, no punctuation or a comma. My only choice then is the comma, which is D. Okay, and that's that one. Okay, that is everything for your writing and language. This is your homework for this week.
Oh boy.
Okay, you're doing this drill. The second practice test thing with all these problems. So it's short. 44 questions. I believe it's 35 minutes off the top of my head. Yep. So 35 minutes to do them. Remember, let's see what we talked about. I told you today, approximately 30 of them, or 75%, are on punctuation, commas, quotation marks. 10 are on words, 5 are on questions. Okay? And that's give or take a couple in each section, but for the most part, that's the breakdown.
Wait, so how many questions will like be based off of like punctuation?
30.
30.
Well, it's 30 between the vertical line test,
Mm-hmm.
between, and then 10
all
are
of
like the
them.
words and the 5 are, yeah. Sorry, it was 30 for the vertical line test, for commas, for apostrophes. So like that drill you just did, which had 11 questions,
It'll be just
spread out, it's about 30 of those. Again, if you want to do flashcards,
Oh yeah.
I would be going through here, okay, when do I mean, like I'm thinking I'd have a flashcard that would say, when do I use punctuation? Or, sorry, when do I use apostrophes? And you flip it over and it'd say possession or contractions. And then you'd have another one that said plural versus singular possession, and you'd know no S apostrophe S, and just scenarios like that. But really, I think the most beneficial way to do it would be in deciding to stop, half stop, and go punctuations, and what goes with what. I can't imagine you guys have used a long dash or a colon in any writing you've done. Nope.
Never.
Right. So you just again, you're not writing and using them. You just have to be able to identify this is when I do use them.